I'm slowly becoming emotionally invested in Star Wars. That's something that I can admit. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back. I have the Stone podcast. I'm here with my boy Daniel.
Hey,
Man, let's just get straight into it. The Return of the Jedi. By the way, it's the first time me seeing this, and this out of all three of them was definitely the best one. You know what? I enjoyed it. I liked it. I found it way more entertaining and engaging in terms of like my interest in it, and in terms of like not, I wouldn't say staying awake, because I did stay awake for all of them, but you know when you're least interested in movies,
yeah.
the way that just the intake of what's actually going on. Like I found it hard to follow on in the previous two, like in the first one I found it so hard to follow on because even certain things, events that you're talking about, I was like, wait, what the hell is he talking about? Second one, I found it a bit easier to follow on. Third one, yeah, I pretty much followed on from the beginning to the end, and I found it it was, like I said, I found it engaging because it was entertaining. The quality looked amazing. When was this one made?
83, so 3 years after Empire Strikes Back,
Yeah,
which I think already looked much better than A New Hope.
yeah, the quality in this one looked amazing. When the film first started, I looked at it, I said, am I in the right one? Or am I watching like one of the recent Star Wars that just came out? It looked amazing. And even like off rip, especially with the scene in the, I don't know what it was, the pub, or the first villain or antagonist, what we want to call him, the blob guy.
Jabba.
Yeah, Jabba. And then obviously in his little, I don't know if it was his house or pub or whatever, and then the whole musical scene. It was just, I found this one very humorous. Like the comedy in this one was very, like, it made it better. It was entertaining, man. And I liked the whole, like, the theme of internal conflict in this one, especially within, of course, in Luke and in Darth Vader. That one just throughout, it felt more intense because it was building to that moment where Luke would have to face Darth Vader, and you start to see Darth Vader change. Like that was something which, it wasn't shocking, but it's very, like, when Darth Vader was so dark in it. So then when you actually start to see the light and you start to see him in doubt and you start to see him being like, I never thought Darth Vader would change. So when I actually saw Darth Vader changing, I was like, oh crap. Of course, it didn't come to the end, which I'm pretty sure most Star Wars viewers, fans would want it to come. Like for me, I wanted them obviously to live happily ever after, but unfortunately, something sad always has to happen. So obviously, what happened to Darth Vader was sad, but I just love the whole theme of internal conflict. It was amazing. But I have other stuff which I like, which I'll get onto it. But I think the reason why I've given this a 6.5, well, 6.5 is above average. I'd say 6.5 is good. I was thinking, should I give this a 7? But I just couldn't give it a 7. Like, there was just, I think the reason why, there were actually two reasons. I think two reasons why I couldn't give this a 7 is, which I've realized why I haven't seen Star Wars in the light as many other fans have, is because I think it's the acting. That's one. And another issue that I had with this film, I have a few other issues, but those are minor. But one, like, kind of, what to say is a big issue, but it's definitely like a highlighted issue that I had with this film, was the anticlimactic scenes, which were supposed to be like, the memorable scenes for me, especially like in the revelation scene, like the scene where Luke reveals to Leia that they're brothers and sisters. I think the acting in that one and just the way that she reacted wasn't really like, it was very, like I said, anticlimactic. I was like, oh, like, it's gonna, like, it just, she felt very, like I said, it felt very bland, and just, it wasn't the reaction that I was expecting. I was expecting a bit more. And
Just looks as famous for struggling with interpersonal relationships.
Yeah,
like, there's a bunch of stuff he can do quite well, but personal relationships are not his strong suit, at least when it comes to writing.
Also was an anticlimactic was like Luke's character arc. I think what I mean by that is in terms of his journey towards becoming a Jedi. It felt very, not very, but it felt a bit undercooked. I still haven't felt or seen. When you've got like a leader, like the main character, right? And he's meant to become this great warrior. Like for example, Paul in Dune, like his transition from where he first started into more deep. I felt like the gradual build. With Luke, it kind of felt a bit underwhelming at time. Even though the fight scene between him and Darth Vader, I was like, oh, okay. Like Luke, I'm starting to see it a bit, but it just felt still a bit underwhelming at times. I was like, I just don't really see the greatness. And I think it's because they didn't really invest. It's kind of like they skipped parts of his journey, I think, because I didn't really see, the greatness that, for example, Darth Vader's master saw and Darth Vader saw, because they kept on saying, the force in this guy is strong. Everyone kept on saying the force in this guy, then, is the one.
In their case, they're talking about potential, right? And what we did see Luke becoming a full-fledged Jedi between movies, which, in contrast to Dune, where an entire movie was dedicated to Paul becoming more deep, right?
Which is exactly,
and
which is the reason.
It's the entire point of the movie. It's very slow. It's very detailed. We see every step of the way. And here with Luke, it kind of happens off camera. And personally, my hot take is that he's not a Jedi, contrary to what the movie says, because he not completed his training and he rejected some of the key aspects of the Jedi philosophy, right? Like, he can use the Force and he generally wants to use it to help people, but he isn't really doing what Yoda wanted him to do in the training, right?
Yoda even said he wasn't a Jedi, so that's why I was a bit confused as to when exactly he turned into a Jedi. Because at first, when he came into me, I keep forgetting. I'm gonna call it Big Blob in the beginning scene.
Jabba.
Yeah, to rescue Han. They kept on. Obviously, they called him a Jedi, or he called himself a Jedi. I think he was joking, right? Like, he was playing just to add more of like the fearsome in amongst obviously his enemies.
Maybe, but I don't think there's ever a scene where he says he's not really a Jedi, or he is something else, or something like that. Like, he just refers to himself as a Jedi the entire time.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why when he said that, I was like, oh, okay, so he became a Jedi. Like, when was this? But then obviously when he met Yoda, and then Yoda said, obviously, you haven't completed your training, and obviously why he didn't want him to go meet Darth Vader. I was like, okay, so he still hasn't become a Jedi. So I was waiting for that moment for him to become a Jedi. So then I think the moment when he cut off Darth Vader's arm, I'm like, okay, so is this the moment where he's become a Jedi? If so, I don't really feel anything. And there was no other moment besides the whole, him cutting off Darth Vader's arm and actually defeating Darth Vader. There was no other moment where was like the pinnacle point of his transformation into the Jedi. So, okay, so that has to be the moment that he turns into a Jedi. And if that is the moment, I didn't fully feel the extent of it. Like, for example, with Paul, when he was walking through the Fremen, and then when he done the whole speech, that's when I was like, okay, that is more deep. I felt the transformation there. And I understand what the difference is, because obviously we saw his journey, and it was all centered around Paul, especially in was it the first one or the second one? Probably both. I just didn't really feel the one presence that I felt with other characters such as Paul.
Yeah, you could argue that he becomes a Jedi when he gets to within an inch of giving into the Emperor's temptations, and then walks back, right? He does not actually cross that line, maybe. But I guess that's maybe semantics. But yeah, it doesn't seem like he's continuing the legacy of Obi-Wan and Yoda, right?
Which I'm fine with, by the way. Like,
yeah. I think it makes it more interesting. I think him rejecting both like two groups trying to recruit him essentially, and him making up his own mind about what a healthy approach to the Force looks like is, to me, more interesting than him just becoming a Jedi. But I'm pretty alone in that opinion.
No, I agree 100%. I actually liked that aspect of it. It's kind of following in the footsteps of those before you. I don't think it would have gone, like, it probably would have overshadowed his character. And I say that in a way because, look, they all followed that way. All of them are dead, and one of them went to the dark side. So it's like, it makes sense for kind of Luke to try something new, and kind of, obviously, he's the new gen. So it's like, let me try something new and see what happens from that. And obviously what we saw what happens from that was him being victorious and him still being alive. Even though he's young and it's a start of his journey, I get it. But still, like, if you follow the footsteps of the older generations, it's very likely that you're going to end up where they are. Even though Obi-Wan and Yoda did have a long life, but it was a life of Yoda was hiding. It was a life of Yoda being in hiding, and Obi-Wan, was he in hiding as well?
Yeah.
Exactly.
They were both in remote places in the galaxy, hiding from the Empire, and essentially waiting for their chance to move against the Empire.
Exactly. So, doing things a new way, it makes sense.
Yeah,
overall, I liked it. I'm gonna go more into the stuff that I liked. There was one thing that really disappointed me. Do you want to hear the thing that really disappointed me, or do you want me to
go for it? I have actually a couple with this movie.
By the way, this was, like I said, everyone, this was the best film out of all three, and I actually really enjoyed this one. So I get it. I'm kind of going in onto it. There's more stuff that I do like, which I'm gonna go into it. But one thing that really disappointed me, and I found so anticlimactic, was what's the green helmets guy? What's his name? The hunter.
Boba Fett.
Yeah, the way that he just his character, honestly, the way that he just came to an end, I was like, what the hell? This was the guy that Darth Vader showed respect to, and he just died. I don't even know if he's dead, but he falls into a freaking worm that looked like the worm from Dune. Like his ending was so, I was so disappointed. Even with his battle with Luke made him look so small. I was like, what the hell? Like, is this?
Well, he gets a Disney Plus show where he basically 40 years later crawls out of the Sarlacc again and then becomes a crime boss, kind of. And let's just say that show is controversial. But yeah, he doesn't go out on a high note, right? And Star Wars kind of has this thing about slapstick where, like, from the very first movie, there's an amount of slapstick in it, often in the form of C-3PO, but also others. Like, some of the aliens are more comedic and sillier, but they're often in the background. And different Star Wars movies strike this balance differently. And I think this movie is the one where it starts to ramp up a little bit too much. Like Boba Fett essentially being a chump and dying in an accident, as opposed to going out in a big fight. Or the Ewoks as well, that many people find just a little bit too silly.
Mm-mm. Now, speaking of aliens, I actually really like that alliance between obviously Luke and his friends. Between those, I don't know what the hell they were, but there's little furry things that had a battle with
Also the Ewoks, the teddy bears.
Yeah, I really liked that chemistry there. It was very funny as well. And the way that they saw the gold robot, what's his name again? The gold robot?
C-3PO.
The way that they saw him as a god, and C-3PO's performance, like their presence felt more important in this one, because even I don't understand, why don't they respect them? When I say they, I mean Han.
Yeah, because he's kind of a nuisance and kind of useless unless he needs to translate something. Like he's always in the way. He's always fussing.
With this one, he was very useful. I felt their presence in this one.
That whole sequence has a couple of nice details, like the fact that C-3PO has rules about not impersonating gods. That is part of his programming. Also, when he recounts the adventures with sound effects. That's a neat little detail.
I really like the ending as well. The ending was so it felt so family and touching, especially with the music. And then when you see Darth Vader and his younger, I believe that was Darth Vader, right?
Yes. So originally the ending of Episode 6 had all the Force ghosts appearing, and we would see Anakin Skywalker for the first time without the disfigurements that made him Darth Vader, right? Yeah. And then in a later version, they swapped him out and put in the actor that played him in the prequels, which is controversial. And that is an instance of George Lucas just messing with the movies over and over again. But like the idea of seeing Anakin being made whole again and having achieved some kind of closure is I guess a nice touch.
Yeah, honestly, that scene there, I don't know why, but it's just like the background music that was playing and just like the whole, just the celebration, and just I felt the love in that scene, and it just felt very. I was like, damn, is this because I know you said that there was I think there's, I don't know if there's 7 or 9 in total, but was this the end of this so is the trilogy the end of this part of the story?
Yes. The next one is Episode 1, which is set a generation earlier. So this concludes Luke's story, essentially.
Oh, so there's no more Luke?
Basically, this is the trilogy that tells the story of how the rebellion defeated the Empire and how Luke defeated the Emperor. So the next movies essentially start a different story. Which we'll find out next week. But yeah, so this is supposed to be the conclusion, and there would not be any other Star Wars for 16 years. So this came out in 83, and Episode 1 came out in 98 or 99, so 15 or 16 years. So for a long time, this was the end of Star Wars, unless you consider the novels and comics and stuff like that. But in terms of the main story and in terms of the movies, this was Star Wars for a long time.
In terms of I don't know how I feel about it. I feel two ways. In terms of the story itself, great ending. In terms of Luke's character arc and obviously his development and how he, how his journey has ended up, how it comes to an end, I feel a bit underwhelmed when it comes to his character. But its story in itself, and obviously with the themes and just the conflicts and just the battles and just everything as a whole, I'm happy with the ending. I'm just not happy with obviously Luke Skywalker's not his performance as actor, but his his growth and his performance as Jedi. So yeah, that's the only thing that I'm a bit disappointed in. But besides that,
because they skipped the part where he actually becomes the Jedi or something
it
else.
it's just I didn't like if like I said, I just didn't feel the one presence. Like you can feel the like when you saw like I keep referring to Paul, but you can feel it. Like it doesn't even have to be Paul. It can be other movies like freaking anime, like Goku. Like you can see his journey and how he becomes like his journey from becoming a Super Saiyan. Like you can see, like you felt him becoming the one. And you obviously same with Paul. I'm just thinking same with Caesar and Planet of the Apes. Like you just feel with certain characters when they become the chosen one. I just didn't really feel it with Luke. I just didn't feel it, and I honestly believe it's because it felt like they were skipping and they weren't really concentrate. I think they should have done a movie where it's just dedicated around him, because obviously there was a lot of facets and there was different stories which we were kind of like, even though they all had a common goal, it just felt like there wasn't enough time spent on Luke. So that's
I mean, the core of the movie is him confronting Vader and getting through to him on a personal level as opposed to in a fight. Right? So that entire sequence where he gives himself up on Endor and allows himself to be captured so that Vader would take him to the Emperor. And then there's this long sequence, it's probably over 20 minutes, where basically the three are engaged in mind games, right? There's a fight, but it's kind of like it might as well not be there, right? Because it's all about these three characters trying to outmaneuver each other and trying to influence each other and outsmart each other. What do you think about that entire sequence?
By the way, I loved that sequence, even though I felt it was a bit weird that the master, what's his name?
The Emperor.
The Emperor. Even though I felt it was a bit weird that he was literally telling Luke what he was trying to do. Cause I was like, why would you tell him? Rather, kind of just don't, because you're kind of like pushing him away from your plan by telling him, if you grab this lightsaber and you strike me now, you will fall into the was it the darkness or dark force, whatever. I'm like,
the dark side, Well, he was trying to get Luke to act out of anger.
Yeah, I get that, but I think you can make Luke act out of anger without adding all of that. You could have just said, oh, your friends are captured, oh, your plan didn't work, now they're about to die. You could have used more persuasive language than just, kind of spreading out for him. Maybe that's what I'm gonna ask. Is that like an 80s thing, like an old movie thing? Even because I'm kind of answering my question, but I'm not at the same time, because I don't know, is that like a sci-fi 80s thing where their lines are kind of like, like that, for example? Or is that just like a sci-fi niche thing, like a Star Wars niche thing? And the reason why I say that, because it kind of links into acting as well. Like I've watched old movies, right, and the acting in those old movies are really good. So I don't know why the acting in this one felt a bit, like I said, it didn't really feel too authentic at times. It felt very theatrical. Was that intentional, or?
I think that's down to how George Lucas writes dialogue. But I think the whole thing hinges on the mechanics of the Force. Like what falling to the dark side means. It's not just being a bad guy, right? It's being consumed by your emotions, essentially. Yeah. And the Emperor is essentially trying to play these other two, like Vader and Luke, against each other, so that no matter what happens, whoever is the strongest of those two will end up being his apprentice, right? So that's basically what he's trying to do. And so in order to do that, Luke has to act out of his own free will in that way, right? He can't coerce somebody to fall to the dark side. They need to be motivated by destructive emotions and then act in selfish ways at the expense of somebody else, essentially. That is when the Force starts to corrupt you. And what the Emperor has to do is to get Luke to act in this way. And he does that by goading him and by maneuvering into a position where the only way forward for him is to act out of anger and fear and things like that. And if he does that, then the Emperor wins. What he doesn't count on is that Luke is able to get through to the human side of Vader, which the Emperor thinks is gone, has been destroyed. And the only person who could have gotten through to Vader is his child, right? Because that is our connection to the part that was once Anakin.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, that scene there, like the whole interaction between the three, was one of the best scenes. The reason why I feel like it was one of the best scenes as well is because the way the Emperor kind of turned Darth Vader back into, like, he turned, like, the way he just minimalized him. Because I remember when he was introduced, and then the way that Darth Vader just bowed down to him, I was like, freaking hell. Not number one, the fear factor on the Emperor increased from this to that. Because of course you saw bits of him, but you didn't really see him in. You saw bits of him in the second film. I don't know if you saw him in the first one, but in the second film you saw a bit of him, so you kind of felt a bit of the, his evil spirit lurking, and you can kind of feel that, right? But in the second one, he was actually introduced, and the way just Darth Vader went into submission, I was like, whoa, this guy is a serious guy, because Darth Vader is Darth Vader, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's got such a force behind him where it's like you can feel it. And even like when the way that he was just submitted to him, it was like, okay, now this kind of increased the stakes, because we now know what the big challenge is. The challenge is Luke, obviously, them two, Luke trying to bring his dad back on his side and bring out the light in him. And obviously, Darth Vader's challenge is, as well as bring Luke back to the dark side, but as well fight the internal conflict. Obviously, Luke's got internal conflict of not trying to kill his dad, but Luke, I don't really feel like that was an internal conflict for Luke, because he kind of really already decided from the get go that he wasn't going to kill Darth Vader when he told Yoda, not Yoda, I mean Obi. So yeah, so the stakes, I already felt the stakes were already high, because you already got a guy like, the master making Darth Vader back into a little boy, and it's like, damn, like, so in my thought, like, if Darth Vader does actually end up teaming with Luke, what the hell is going to happen? Like, how the hell are they gonna come against the guy that made Darth Vader look like into a little boy? So the thought of that just had me a bit excited and had me a bit anxious in a good way to kind of find out what's gonna happen. Which, even though his ending was like, the Emperor's ending was a bit anticlimactic as well, I wasn't disappointed with the ending, even though it was a bit climactic where he just picked him up and then threw him. But it was fitting, because that cost him his life. So it does also show how powerful the Emperor was by not even, like, he didn't even direct his power towards Darth Vader. It's just like literally Darth Vader just touched him. Obviously, he was, what was that power of the Emperor? It was just electric. Was that the Force as well?
It's called Force Lightning, and it's essentially just channeling raw energy through the Force.
And is that something that's, is that something that's gonna, like, is that something which is prevalent in this film that's used a lot?
It's one of the staples. Like any Star Wars game or other media is probably going to feature Force Lightning at some point.
That's something that you can learn even if you're not from the dark side. Like,
it is a dark side thing, because hurting somebody with lightning like this is very direct. You have to do it with the intent of inflicting pain, and you can't do that without the dark side. Basically, is the idea. Now, Star Wars gets a little bit fuzzy the further on it goes about how exactly the Force works. And if we continue throughout the three trilogies, we're going to see that how the idea of what the Force is changes quite a bit. But the idea is essentially the Jedi are all about balance and order, and the Sith are all about, I don't know that Sith ever comes up, but Sith is the group that the Emperor and Darth Vader belong to. Right, those are basically the two different philosophies of how the Force can be used. And one of them is essentially about order and selflessness, and the other one is about disorder and selfishness. And that's kind of the dichotomy between the two in the way they use the Force, essentially. And so what I like about the Force Lightning is that it's like the expression of just wanting to inflict pain and harm. Like, you can't do that with a serene mind that is just in perfect balance with everything, because you have to do it with the intention of causing harm and suffering. So that's a neat little detail there. But I think the entire sequence of the showdown between the three, I think is really, like you said, the acting is really good, and I think a lot of it is non-verbal as well.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of places there where somehow Darth Vader has facial expressions.
Yeah.
Right? Which is not easy to do with a helmet.
Yeah, I agree. It was crazy. I actually agree, because you could like, I could feel like I knew what his facial expression was saying, especially when Luke was begging him to stop the Emperor. I could feel like it's like I knew what his facial expression was in that moment, and facial expression before, even when he said, what was the I forgot the scene, but there was a scene where Luke was standing where he kicked Darth Vader down the stairs, and then they had a little interaction. I don't know if he said something about, he said, "You'll never do it." You see, when he asked him to come, no, he said, "I can see the light in you," and he said something about, "I can see the light in you," And then Darth Vader was like, must have something like no or something, nothing. But I could tell what his face was. I can tell that his face was probably like, when someone is in doubt of themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
you can see this growing doubt in Vader the entire time, right? And it really starts when, after Luke has given himself up, and there's this period where they talk, Luke and Vader talk, but Vader has not yet brought Luke to the Emperor. And as they walk down this hallway and Luke talks, you can see the doubt growing in Vader. Even though he doesn't say anything, even though he's wearing this helmet. And I'm not sure if you're aware, but the voice of Darth Vader is not the same as the actor. Basically, Darth Vader is voiced by James Earl Jones, who is one of the great voices of cinematic history. And the problem is that they needed a really tall, imposing actor to play Darth Vader. And then the guy they hired does not have an imposing voice. So there's like footage of that actor saying the lines, and it just sounds silly. And so they got James Earl Jones to replace essentially ADR the lines. So the Vader performance, I think, is even more impressive when you consider that A, he's wearing a helmet the entire time, and two, it's two guys doing the performance. One person doing the mannerisms and one person doing the voice. And the two just line up perfectly. And it's really impressive and really, really fun to watch. Especially how subtle a lot of it is.
And honestly, I think Darth Vader was the talking point for me when it comes to the trilogy. I think it was probably his performances was the best one for me, the highlight ones for me, which I'm not surprised, even though I thought it was going to be Luke, because of course, actually no, that's a lie, because I think I'm starting to become more of a fan of the villains rather than the actual heroes. I don't know why, but I think their performances is just more heartfelt, and like it's just more emotionally gripping than the heroes for some reason. I don't know why, but
they often get to be larger than life.
Larger than life? What do you mean by that?
Like they get to have these massive personalities, and they get to have the initiative, and they make these big gestures, and they have these grand plans, whereas the hero is often more reactive. I think that's why a lot of the time villains are more compelling, or at least more fun to watch than the heroes. But yeah, Vader is definitely one of the great ones, and even Palpatine too. Like on paper, he's the lamest villain ever, right? He's this wizard, this evil wizard, the Emperor. Like his name is Palpatine. I don't know if they say it in this movie, but
I think I was literally waiting for them to say it again. I didn't want to rewind it, but it just kept on referring as Emperor.
Yeah. I think at this point he has kind of erased his own past, and he's just the Emperor. But
he's the Master. Sorry.
Yeah. So Darth Vader always calls him Master, and everybody else calls him the Emperor. Like on paper, he's just the evil wizard who is like cartoonishly evil. Like all his mannerisms are really over the top and silly, and yet it somehow works. Like I think even the juxtaposition of, like, I think the Star Wars universe is actually kind of grounded. Like it's very used. It feels very lived in, right? And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have these larger than life space samurai with their force powers. Like the two don't seem to go together really, but somehow they do. And I think in the Emperor, this gap between how gritty and bleak and kind of dark the Star Wars universe is, but then you've got this cartoon villain who runs the show, and he seems to not fit in, but that is why he fits. I can't really explain it.
No, I hear what you're saying. And I only mentioned that one thing which I didn't really like about his character in terms of like the whole dialogue scene. But besides that, like I said, I felt the fear factor from his performance. And even though at times he was very, like you said, it was, I wouldn't say cheesy, but it was, you get what I'm saying? It was like that kind of like a TV film type of performance at times, but it worked. And I
would absolutely call it cheesy, absolutely. Yeah, it's very over the top, very cartoonish.
Borderline. So for me, it wasn't like I wouldn't want to say cheesy because I've seen cheesy acting, and I wouldn't say that was cheesy for me personally. I just say it was like TV film, like TV movie type of acting, but which worked. Like he was still. I don't know why. At times I kind of felt it was a bit funny as well, especially when Luke cut off Darth Vader's arm and then he was celebrating. He was like, "Yes, now you can become my apprentice." I was like, "What the hell? The way that you're just dismissing Darth Vader like he didn't serve you for how many years?" And yeah, so but I did get what you're saying with his character. His character was enjoyable as well, and
he just operates on a completely different level. He doesn't care about the same things that everybody else in the galaxy does. Like all he really wants is to get the strongest apprentice he can get, and so he makes the two prospects fight, and whoever wins that like no matter what the outcome is, that like the Emperor wins, right? At least that's what he thinks, until the big twist comes and Luke can actually get through to Vader on a personal level, and now it's 2 against 1.
Oh yeah, I think overall, I definitely with the whole like trilogy, I had a satisfying experience. Like if I was to rate my overall experience of trilogy, I'd probably say it was a 6 overall. Definitely above average. So I definitely put it in the good category. So 6 for me, like the good category.
So you'd say it went out on a high note?
Yeah, it went out on a high note. The only critique I could give it is I'm still not fully convinced that this was the greatest franchise in sci-fi history for me personally. But overall for me it was satisfying. In terms of if I didn't see Dune, maybe I would have given it I probably still would have given it a 6. Yeah, I still would have given it a 6. For me, Dune is probably the greatest. Is Dune sci-fi? Yeah, the greatest. Well, it's only got 2 movies, but so far I'm pretty sure it's going to turn into a franchise. But the greatest franchise in sci-fi history for me. So, but yeah, I enjoyed this experience. Just because I still don't see what other people see in this franchise doesn't mean it was a bad movie. No. It just personally. I'm not gonna say personally it wasn't for me because, like I said, it's a 6. I enjoyed the journey. So far, I'm enjoying the journey so far. But yeah, I'm definitely saying I'm like looking forward to the next movie because now I want to kind of see like, okay, so because there was a lot of unfinished business. When I say a lot, I say a few. Like for example, Leia's journey. Now, kind of intrigued to see what's gonna happen with her if there is gonna be a start to her journey because obviously now she's the other Skywalker. She's gonna, she's got the Force. She's part of, Luke's family. So it's like, okay, I'm kind of intrigued to see what happens with her story now. So yeah, I would say that I'm slowly becoming emotionally invested in Star Wars. That's something that I can admit. And yeah, even though I gave it a 6, I'm slowly getting there. And there's more movies to come, so who knows? My emotional investment might increase throughout the films. So yeah.
Would you say this has rewatch potential for you? Or is this like this was a fun ride, but it's over now? Or is this something where you would say this is one of the greats and that you can rewatch every couple of years, whatever?
1 and 2, no, but 3, yes.
Okay, so Empire Strikes Back doesn't rise to that level for you?
No, I definitely think Jedi is the best one out of all 3 of them. The Jedi for me has replay value, and mainly because of Darth Vader's performance and the whole internal conflict. I think that's something which just grips me. Like that's something that's gripped me from the beginning. Like Yeah.
Okay. So next week we're talking about Episode 1, which is, as the title suggests, it's not a continuation of this. It's a prequel, right? So which is set about a generation earlier. It's called Episode 1: The Phantom Menace. Any predictions about what that might be?
I'm guessing that's the Phantom Menace. I'm guessing that's going to be about Darth Vader.
In what way?
In terms of like his journey, as in like they're going to start going into his story more in terms of him, Obi, and Yoda, just how he kind of became Darth Vader, I'm guessing.
Are you looking forward to this? Like knowing that this does not continue the story that's been told so far, but we're now jumping back and telling essentially we've told the second half of the story first, and now we're going back in time and picking up the story there.
Personally, for me, I'm more of a sequel person. The only times I like prequels is when the story is actually finished. With this, I feel like it's unfinished because obviously it's got an ending where, like I said, with the whole Leia story that feels unfinished and the whole Luke's character, I feel like there could still be more development in that. Even though it's like the ending does make sense, obviously Darth Vader's dead and the Emperor's dead. So, even though I did enjoy the ending and I felt it was good, I still felt it's still like unfinished business. So that's why I wouldn't say I'm too happy with the fact that they're going back, but it's still interesting to see Darth Vader's, journey and just like what Yoda was like before, because I saw he died at 900. Yeah,
so we're seeing him at a youthful 870.
Exactly. So I want to see. So I'm intrigued to see the training or what he was like, and just like the training between just the interactions and the relationships, how it was, and how Darth Vader actually turned into the Dark. Yes, I am intrigued to see that. But at the same time, I'm still a sequel person rather than a prequel. But I'm still intrigued. I'm still interested. because like I said, Darth Vader is my favorite character in this whole franchise. So far, so yeah.
Okay, I think we've covered it. I think this was definitely interesting to see how somebody who somehow has avoided all the spoilers and somehow managed to not see these movies until now is kind of looking at it. Because like a lot of people, for me, I discovered this like at age 12 or whatever, and like I watched episode 1 in theaters a few weeks ago because it was the 25th anniversary, and just seeing that Star Wars logo on screen, like in the back of my head, something is triggered there.
Yeah.
Right? It's like it feels it's more than just a movie, but at the same time, it is just a movie, right? And I think it's interesting to see this perspective of somebody coming at this with a fresh perspective.
Nah, it's good, man. I'm definitely enjoying the journey, and there's way more movies to come. And I feel like on the new, I don't know what the new film's gonna be, but I'm definitely going to go and watch it because, like I said, I'm starting to slowly become emotionally invested in the whole franchise. And how many movies are there left to go?
So in the main series, 6. So there are 9 total, episodes 1 through 9, and we've covered 3 of them so far.
Okay, cool. So yeah, cool. So I'll see how that goes. And then, but I definitely would say that if the new one comes out, whatever the new one's going to be about, I'll definitely, I believe at this current moment, I'd definitely go and watch it because I'm slowly starting to get emotionally invested, mainly because of the third film. So yeah, man, I'm starting to like the world, man. I'm starting to like the world. All right, guys. Well, hopefully you enjoyed today's conversation. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, man, we'll catch you next week.
Bye bye.